Hey, it's Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and it's Thursday. It's March 27th. This will be our chart lesson for today, and this Thursday, so this will wrap up our week. No chart lessons on Fridays. Uh, Quick look at our daily chart here. You can see that we tried to trade higher today and ended up closing much lower than we did yesterday. We actually closed up from where we opened this morning, but we closed down from yesterday. And you can tell this is kind of just mixed trading here. This is a doji, so you didn't really trade up, you didn't really trade down, you just kind of went sideways, and that's exactly how the 2,000 tick chart looks. It's mostly sideways. So, but just looking at this, it looks like I mean we're just kind of chopping sideways. Or at least we did today. We're still trending down. Actually, I'll take that back. We're still trending down, but this was just kind of a sideways day. So we'll see. You would think that if this blue channel, let's make this a little different color just so it's a little easier to see. We'll make it this salmon color. Um, I do believe that it looks like it's valid. We never really got a third touch of it, so it could just be the steeper green one is correct, and we've already had a break in new high, and we may be trending down now. So we don't have enough price action there to know yet. So the only thing I can tell you for sure is that we relieved a lot of the over sold stuff that we were way oversold here. So still doesn't look like anything super bullish yet, but I will have to wait and see. But let's flip over to the 2,000 tick chart, and you can see that it's just kind of a range day, and we'll just go from there. And here it is. And the only news you really had to worry about at 7:30 this morning, there was uh, some unemployment claims and some GDP numbers, so forth. There was a medium pending home sales at 9, and that seemed to have actually affected the market uh, really more than the high volatility GDP stuff or the unemployment claims this morning. So it's kind of a odd news day, but you can see we were working sideways. This was the original overnight lows and overnight highs here using the closes, which is what I usually use. Closes and then following that the most touches. And we had a little failed break lower, followed by a failed break higher, back into the range, and we just spent the rest of the day going back and forth in the larger range. And so, pretty standard price action kind of day with a range day. But let's zoom in here and we'll go through the trades and kind of try to wrap today up. 7 o'clock came. I think it was one of these bars right in here. Yeah, just as we're topping out here. And so you get a break of this. You got a channel working up. You get a break of it. And there was actually a first entry, second entry. So there was a second entry long here, but it's right in the news. You need to wait 5 minutes or so after that news comes out. And usually I tell you not to take a trade maybe 10 or 15 minutes prior. And this bar here, it closes at 7:30. So this is right as the news is coming out. And that's what kind of jolted this to straight up. But really after about 5 minutes, you could tell there wasn't much going on. So this bar is maybe 10 minutes later. And so notice there's a new low and you get a first entry and then a second. And you also have this channel working up, close outside new high. And there's a second entry short right there with a nice signal bar. I like going short there if you want to. This is two sideways. This one is more sideways as well. Now, I will say that there's a second entry, one first entry, and then a second entry, but that signal bar, um, you can tell it reacts off the lows of that support of that congestion area, so you really can't go short there. That's just a first entry, and these are all just kind of first entries chopping down, and you've all actually have a close outside by here, and then two legs down by here, so you got to be really careful entering anything else at that point. And then suddenly we shoot through the EMA, pull back, and get a first entry short, and then there's a second entry short right there, but you wouldn't want to take that trade. I didn't draw this. We're back above the EMA. Everything's played out, and you can see there that that's the first close outside. Now it is a close outside and a new high all in one, but you're not really looking for a short here. If you took that, it would have worked. You would have got your scalp, but it looks like a reversal pattern setting up to me, and you actually get that here, and so I mark this as a reversal pattern. This is more advanced. This is for not for if you're just learning this and just trying to get profitable. You don't want to be trying to take this trade. And you can see it didn't go very far before it turned back down, but you would have got your scalp there. If you tried to go for anything more than 4 ticks, nope, you had a loser there. And so these are very complicated, very advanced type trades that only experienced profitable traders that understand them should be taken. So otherwise, just skip these. There's a reason I don't teach in the battle. There's a reason I don't talk. If people send me emails, I tell you I'm not going to really give you a whole lot of information on them because they just throw people off and cause people to have losses is basically what they do. So, but anyway, we start trending up here. It's just a first entry. You don't want to enter on this side of the EMA, just all this choppy stuff. And then we get in another range. And again, there's just no setup there really to enter. But notice what happens. You get a move down, close outside new low, and you get a second entry long there. Now, that's not a very good, that signal bar is close. Maybe if it ticked a tick higher, it's just questionable. It's only 9 ticks, which is really low risk. Compared to what we've been having lately. And you're expecting prices to go back and make a retest of this high. So there's reasons to go long there. So maybe you take that one. It runs on up, pulls back, just a first entry there. Then it pulls back and tries to go higher, fails, comes back and gives you, now you got a triple test and a second entry long if it breaks above this bullish green bar. And I like that. Just go long there. And you may or may not get a runner on this one. It just depends on how you played it. And then, of course, you get a close outside and a few legs up here. And then now we're up here at the highs of the range. You can see that was with the overnight highs coming across there. And we break out and fail, but I just don't really see. You might say, hey, there's a triple test here, but it looks so congested. But it's a possibility. I think you're better off to skip it. And of course, we start trending down here, and you get a first entry, and then you get a second. You get a close outside and a new low, all in one here. And if you look, it is a second entry, but this looks congested. This does not necessarily look like, maybe there's 2 legs down in the hidden second entry there. But I just think it's risky after a failed breakout because we're back inside and there's just not much room back to the resistance there. It ends up being a nice trade, but it's not worth the risk. And of course, there's another trend working up here. And you get a close outside a new high. But again, that's just a first entry short there, and then it pushes up again. And you do get a second entry short right here, and you got a little bit of a trap maybe. You're just not real far away from the EMA, and again, it looks a little congested. That's another one that if you really see what's going on there, maybe you take it as long as you got room back to the EMA. It would have been good for a scalp, and then it gives you a lower high here, but the signal bar is no good. That's the better entry, but you don't get a setup there. And then it comes back down and it bounces at the lows again. Now we bounced there once, twice. We did push on through, and now you got a third time. Would I treat that as a triple test? No, but I think you've got proof that there's support across there, and it's a second entry long. Of course, you're not really looking for second entries in a tight range like this, but that's a nice signal bar. It broke lower and then turned up. So if it breaks above that, you'll probably get a scalp. So I marked it green, and then this is all just too choppy. And then next thing you know, we're heading lower there. And we got a trend working down. I don't believe we get a convincing close outside until right here, and you get a couple legs down. You don't get a break above that one. If you did, maybe it's green. You need the higher low, which comes here, and that just is not a good enough signal bar considering that's congestion. I did a live trade today, and I was looking for a possible setup right here, and I just wasn't happy with that. I wasn't going to take that, and so you'll see that I don't enter until over here. But it ends up working, but it's just not a very good setup. And then you trend back down here and you test this again. Notice that you start working higher here, but you're making higher highs and higher lows. There is an inside bar here that you might say, hey, that's a high or low based off bouncing off this line. But it's an inside bar. Again, I looked at that. You got to go long right into the EMA. It could turn down again. It's just not a very good setup. So once again, we just skip it and prices continue higher. And then now you get a break of that trend line and you get a first entry and then you pull back. And if it breaks higher here, this is a second entry. This is a trade I took. It actually, before I could get my recorder started, it already ticked higher, so I had to drop my order in there afterward, and I dropped a limit order, and I just dropped it right there on the top of that bar. So I actually got a little, by being late, I got a tick better entry, but it didn't matter. This trade, it took a little heat on this bar, and then you were out, and before it turns back down here. So, but there was no runner because it came back. I mean, I actually was in and out on this same bar right here. So quick, easy scalp. I was trading 20 contracts, so I scalped out 15, and then I was break even plus one on my runner, and I was out at that just about almost as quick as I was. The trade closed out. It dropped back and stopped out the runners, and that's the way they do. They know where these. They know how a lot of these people enter, and they try to be conservative with it. So they're trying to run the stops, and that's what they do. But the key here is sometimes you'll get that one that just takes off and you'll catch a big runner. So it gives you an opportunity of that, but I'm always going to play it conservative when I'm doing the live example trades and so forth, because I want people to trade more conservatively until they're really good at this, and then they can make their own decisions at that point. But while you're learning, you want to trade it the most conservative way. And looking back at it, there's still plenty of room here, so I was hoping I'd catch a run at least back to these highs. Notice that this turns out to be kind of a range here, and so the measured move is right here, and we just touched that, and then we came back and we bounced here, and so you would expect prices to come back to at least here. So there's room to get a little bit of a runner, and that's what I was trying to do, but didn't pan out. And it ends up going much higher. So if you could have grabbed a runner here, that's a really nice move up. Just assume you got a runner there. I mean, that's 10 points up. So, but I played it conservative and didn't work out. So if you'd had a better signal bar here, you might have traded this as a higher low with still plenty of room to get out, but that's not a good enough signal bar. And it runs up, but notice the new low there, and you get a first entry and then a second entry. Now, does that look like two legs up? Not really, but there's another little dash back. So I think you could safely, and plus the main thing is you have two separate trends. Anytime you get a little two-legged move in the middle, usually these are two separate moves, and you're looking for a measured move here. And we don't quite get there, but notice the trend up, the close outside, the new high. And this actually breaks higher and fails and turns down. I like trading that on the engulfing bar. Most of you should wait till this closes to be sure it's bearish enough and it closes like it looks. But because that's so bullish, it's probably going to trap people. So I like entering that one on the engulfing bar, but you could still wait and enter here. Most of you, 90% of you should probably wait till the bar closes to be sure. And then a break below that, if it does, you can jump in. And you can see it's a nice move down. And you get a close outside and new low, and then it gets a little two-legged correction. and off it goes again. Now there's a hidden second entry there, but that signal bar doesn't qualify anyway. Then there's 2 legs down, and so that's another second entry there, but again the signal bar doesn't qualify. Now somebody sent me a trade example, I think it was right here, and they went long above that thinking they had some kind of trap there. Honestly, I don't even see a trap there. I just see a second entry long that keeps working higher. Now maybe it was here they went long, maybe it broke back there and then turned up. But still, I don't think that's going to fool and trap a lot of people. You can see it doesn't really go anywhere. You might have scalped out there. I believe the trader entered 1 tick above this bar, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe it was this bar, but I believe it was this one. And I don't see a trap there, honestly. I don't see one here either. I just see sideways congestion. That's what it turns into. And then it just, boom, the bottom falls out. But there's a first entry, second entry. But again, there's signal bar's no good. Runs down, this is sideways. You can't enter any of this. And then it reverses. And you don't want to be trying to pick a... We have bounced here multiple times. I wouldn't say multiple times, but 1, 2, that's about the 3rd bounce. But it's been a long time. It's been since we had bounced there a couple of hours. So I would want to get a high. I would want to see a higher low here. And I think prices have moved too far. Maybe you might trade that. But by the time you get in this, you're almost back to the trend line. And this trend line, so there's a good chance we're coming back down again. So I just don't think you want to go long there. I think you need to wait. And of course, you do get the break here. You get a lower high here, but it's not a tradable one. You're not really looking for a reversal yet. And then we just kind of start chopping sideways. But notice we get a 1, 2, 3 triple test, and we're in this range. So there's plenty of room. Just go long there. And it ends up going much higher. And notice you got a new low there because this is a double bottom. So you get a first entry, second entry, and you get a nice signal bar. I like going short there, because we are looking for a retest of these lows, so prices are probably going to attempt it again. They had to break it out this side and fail it to try to run it through the other side. And that's what they'll do a lot of times. Should have heard me talk about that before. But we bounce here again. We still don't have a new low, so I think you got to wait on a higher low here, which comes here. And I thought we'd get another setup here, but the signal bar doesn't work out. It ends up looking like congestion. You're not getting rejection there yet. It ends up taking off, but you want to see that rejection to have real confidence that something's, that is reversing. And of course, this just takes off now. And it's questionable if you get a convincing close outside till here and you get a new high with that. It's technically, by the counts, it's not a second entry, but it does look like 2 legs up. So, and you are way away from the EMA. Maybe you take that one, but the better one is to wait on the lower high. And that comes here. And I didn't mark this one either. I probably, looking at it after the fact, I don't know why I didn't look at that as a lower high, because we're still not back to the EMA. But I think the way I was looking at this, I think I had this, is that this is the first close outside. And it's kind of an inside bar. So there was a good chance we might tick lower and go higher one more step there. But looking at it after the fact, I think you could at least make that green. And so anyway, it runs back down, and then you test this again, and now you got a triple test across there. Decent signal bar. I like going long there just to ride it back to the highs again. And of course, you do get a bar that sets up here, but you're still in that channel, and it's got too much stem, so I don't think it's a good enough bar to go short on. And you see what happens here, you would have had a loser there. So that's a good example of why we have a rule that your signal bar has to close in the lower 1/3 to go short, or the upper 1/3 to go long. And that just filters out problems like that right there. And of course we push out and it fails. And again, a lot of times I'll mark those green. You're always better to wait on the lower high, and this is one of those. You see, I'm pretty sure this works. So you've got almost 3 points there. So it's like I said, almost all breakouts fail, even if it's only temporarily, and it looks like we're going to go higher, and it just fails again. You can't enter here because the signal bar is not good enough, but here it breaks higher, fails, and turns it down. You can't trade that on the engulfing bar, but maybe you trade that as a lower high. I marked it green. It's not perfect, but it turns out to be a really good trade. So, and again, if you took that one, it works. It's not perfect setup. The real reason I don't like it is because you don't have a break of that channel yet. This one runs down. That's your first break, and it's just a first entry. And you do get a second entry here, but again, it doesn't trigger. And there again is another example of why we filter our trades. I've seen people say, well, that was a perfect second entry. You know, we're still looking for a low, and I took that trade. Why? Well, there's a reason why we say you have to have a good signal bar. You don't have one there, and it fails and traps you and takes it higher. Runs up here. We do get a close outside here finally in a new high, but no signal bar. But we get a lower high here, and the only reason I marked this one green is because it looks really sideways and congested, and there is some support across there. You can see that. So it's questionable. When you see it, it breaks lower and tries to recover, and it almost would have stopped you out. It tried 3 times, but it couldn't break. That's a good example of why we put our stops while we put them. They tried to run those stops, and they could not get above that bar. So that's why you'd put your stop 1 tick above that bar so you don't get stopped out right there. And this is also a little late going right into 230, so that's another reason that's probably green there. So some good learning examples of why we follow the rules. I showed you where if you didn't follow the rules of going for 4 ticks, you'd have a loser. There's several trades here. If you didn't follow the rules of the signal bar qualifying rules, you probably would have had a loser by following the rules. It kept you out of bad trades. Why you don't want to go short into support there? I mean, this one would have ended up working, but it could have easily stopped you out. But that's why we put our safety stop where we do. And if you put it anywhere else there besides 1 tick above that, you would have got stopped out on a trade that actually takes off and runs pretty good. So anyway, there it is today. That's going to wrap up our day and our week. Some good learning opportunities. I did put up a live trade. I posted it right before I started on the chart lesson, so it should be up there. You won't see it on YouTube yet. I always post it through the website first and give all my people a chance to, people that go to the website and are members. And you don't really have to be a member. You can go to the website and find the link on the website on the right-hand side of the home page. Just look down through there at the most recent post, and you'll see it should be at the top of the most recent post. So you don't necessarily have to be a member to see it, but usually I wait a few hours and give all them a chance to view it first, and then I'll open it up. Then I'll eventually open it up on YouTube. So it'll actually post to YouTube shortly where you can see the link. But as of right now, you probably wouldn't be able to see the link because I have not made it public on YouTube yet. I just have a link on the website to our members. So anyway, I'm going to wrap it up. I hope everybody has a good trading day on Friday and a great weekend. I usually lately I'm trying to start my weekends by noon on Fridays, and I'll continue to try to do that. So I'm not, if you send me anything after noon on Friday, it probably won't get answered till Monday. I got a lot going on this weekend. Won't get to any emails, and I've got to where I don't read them much on the weekend anymore. It's just I have to have a break, and so if you send me anything after noon on Friday, probably after 11 o'clock, it probably won't get read till Monday. So keep that in mind. And anyway, I'm going to wrap it up. Again, hope you have a great weekend. This is Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and we'll see you next time.